Okay. Okay, this is Nina. Okay, there is, let me finish. Okay, there are some, please people mute the microphone. Okay. Okay, there's some confusion there. How does one become a deva if not by listening to the Dhamma? So why would the devas become complacent? It seems like a contradiction here. Okay, second, is there no will here in ending the cycle by simply not coming back? Let's take each question in turn. So how does one become a deva if not by listening to the Dharma? Actually, what leads to rebirth in the deva world is the accumulation of certain, let's say a certain stock of wholesome karma or merits. And these merits can be obtained by the practices of generosity, by moral conduct, by developing certain beautiful states of mind, particularly loving kindness, compassion, altruistic joy, equanimity. So those are the causes for rebirth in the deva world. And to be reborn in the deva world, one doesn't have to be following the Buddha Dharma. So we could say that people who are following any other religion or spiritual teaching that advocates such virtues as kindness, generosity, ethical conduct will be planting the seeds for rebirth in the deva world, in the heavenly worlds. And so the deva worlds are in no way the exclusive preserve of followers of the Buddha. And it could also be the case that human beings listen to the Dharma, hear the Dhamma, and then get reborn in the deva world. But when they're reborn in the deva world, after the passing away of the Buddha, they might forget the Dharma, forget. Or maybe when passing through the process of death and rebirth, they lose their recollection of the Dharma and have to be reminded of it. Just like I would say is the case with us human beings. I would assume that many of us who are now followers of Buddhism had been followers of the Buddha in previous lives. But say those of us who have been reborn in the West, when we're children, young adults, we don't know anything about the Buddha Dharma. And so we just enjoy ourselves in worldly ways until at some point we encounter the Dhamma. Then we realize, this is the truth. And so then maybe we generate the sense of urgency, and then we take up the Buddha Dharma. And even people in Buddhist countries, I have to say, I've heard from many, many traditional Buddhists who say that for us, when we were young, we never really understood the Buddha Dharma. We were Buddhists, but we just practiced the traditional Buddhist rituals and ceremonies and holiday observances. Only when we experienced the death of a loved one, or when we fell ill, or something happened in our life that set us in quest of the Dhamma, then we took up the Dhamma in earnest. Yeah, so we could say that the devas, even if they had previous connections with the Buddha Dharma, but they have to be reminded after their rebirth in the deva world. Okay, let's move on. The second question. Can I hide this? Is there no will in ending the cycle by simply not coming back? I would say that probably for the I would say that the great number of, great majority of devas do become complacent. So those actually The sutta uses the expression, those devas, for the most part, fall into negligence, and then they become filled with fear and terror. What's important here is the expression for the most part, because in the deva world, there will be devas who, as human beings, had been stream enterers, once returners, non-returners. When they are reborn in the deva world, they have their recollection of their noble status. And so they don't become filled with this fear and terror because they already have an understanding of the Dharma, already have this will to end the cycle of birth and death. But it's those devas who had fallen into complacency. For them, the determination to end the cycle of birth and death has to be revived, brought back by listening to the Buddha's teaching. I hope that answers the question. Okay, now another question. How do you get from Sakkaya self to anatta, not self? Actually, it's not a matter of getting from self to not self. Sakkaya are the 5 aggregates, and the 5 aggregates are wrongly conceived, wrongly interpreted to be self. So that is the problem that afflicts the great majority of ordinary beings. So what has to be done is to get from the misunderstanding or misinterpretation of the aggregates as self to the correct view of the aggregates as being anatta, non-self. And that is to be done by contemplating the 5 aggregates in terms of the 3 characteristics: impermanent, because impermanent, dukkha, non-self, dukkha, subject to suffering, and because impermanent and subject to suffering, anatta, not self. So it's not a matter of getting from Sakkaya to anatta, but it's a matter of getting from the wrong understanding of Sakkaya as being a self or the belongings of a self to the right view of Sakkaya as being anatta, not self. And that is to be accomplished through the development of correct insight into the 3 characteristics. Okay, let us move to next. Okay, does Sakkaya here mean Namarupa as well as Kaya Mano? We could say, yeah, we could identify Sakkaya with Namarupa. Yeah, in the way the expression Namarupa is used in the commentaries, where it includes all 5 aggregates. In that case, Namarupa and Sakkaya are identical. Okay, can a deva reach Nibbana in a deva existence? I think I answered that question already. Yeah, the devas can attain arhatship in the deva world. They can attain, as devas, they could attain the first level of being stream enterers, even once returners, non-returners, and from there go on to cultivate their insight and achieve arhatship. Okay, what kind of practice leads to the immaterial world, the arupa loka? So that would be the attainment or mastery over the 4 immaterial meditative attainments: the base of the infinity of space, the infinity of consciousness, the base of nothingness, the base of neither perception nor non-perception. But I have to add, from the Buddhist point of view, the attainment of rebirth in the immaterial plane is not considered desirable, because the devas dwelling in the immaterial plane are not able to listen to the Dharma and thereby to contemplate the Dharma and achieve insight. If a person achieves any of the stages of realization as a human being, then they can practice the immaterial absorptions, take rebirth in the immaterial realm, and then they can continue to deepen their insight and achieve liberation there. But if one takes rebirth in the immaterial plane without having the world transcending right view of a stream enterer or higher stage, then one will live for thousands of aeons in the immaterial realm without being able to attain realization. So it's better to aim to achieve realization as a human being or as a lower deva before aiming at the immaterial plane. Okay, is it correct that Mara is a deva? Are some devas dangerous to be avoided? How is this understood in Buddhism? Yeah, in the suttas itself, Mara, to my knowledge, is not placed anywhere within the different realms of existence. But in the commentaries, it said that Mara dwells in a corner, so to speak, of among the devas, the Paranimitta Vasavati devas, the devas who exercise control over the creation of others. So it said that in this realm, Mara is like the rebel prince in a kingdom. The rebel prince tries to rebel against the king, but the king expels him. And so the rebel prince has to resort to a remote frontier region within the kingdom, and he sets up his camp there. And so Mara dwells in a corner of this particular heavenly world. And from there, he tries to tempt human beings. And in Buddhism, Mara is not quite like the devil of Christianity, like Satan, because Mara has no interest in leading people to the hell realms. Mara has no connection at all with hell. Mara's function is simply to prevent human beings from breaking free from the bondage of samsara. So Mara can try to encourage human beings to do good, wholesome deeds that will lead them to rebirth in the heavenly realms. The one thing Mara does is to prevent human beings from entering upon the noble path that leads to liberation. Okay, what if one practices only generosity? Okay, if one practices only generosity, one will gain, of course, one will gain merits, but if one is breaking the precepts while practicing generosity, then there'll be a kind of maybe a calculus or a tension or conflict between one's breaking of the precepts and one's practicing of generosity. So the results will be very mixed. And I guess it depends what the outcome is, will depend very much on the weight of one's different types of karma. So if one practices abundant generosity, but seldom breaks some of the minor precepts, then I guess generosity will outweigh the breach of the precepts. But if one frequently breaks heavy precepts and practices generosity, then the repeated violation of those important precepts will outweigh the practice of generosity. So the best course of action is to cultivate all three bases of merit, to practice abundant generosity, to firmly uphold the precepts, and to develop some of the meditation subjects that generate wholesome states of mind. Okay, where among the different realms of the Nagas? The Nagas are assigned, they're one of the subdivisions of the heaven of the four great kings. This is the Chatu Maharajika Deva world. So this is the lowest realm of the sense sphere devas. And this realm has four divisions. Each of these divisions is ruled over by a different king. So one division is the realm of the Nagas. The Nagas are the dragon spirits. The second division is the realm of the Gandharvas or Gandhabas. The Gandhabas are spirits or devas that are said to dwell in the forests and to dwell in trees and in plants and flowers, especially flowering trees. But also they come to be identified with the musicians of the heavenly worlds. So there's the Nagas, Gandharvas, then Yakshas. The Yakshas are a kind of fierce spirits, which can be very destructive and dangerous, but they also can be helpful in that they can be transformed to use their vigor, their fierceness, the ferocity to eliminate obstacles to one's spiritual practice and to eliminate obstacles to the Dharma. And then the fourth division of this realm are the Kumbundas. The Kumbundas are a kind of goblin-like spirit that is, they're said to dwell deep in the forests and to be guardians of hidden treasures. It seems that these beings that are classified in the heaven of the four great kings, this is a way in which early Buddhism incorporated the different types of spirits that were worshipped in the popular Indian religion of the Buddha's time, particularly in the villages, particularly among village folk, the farmers, and so forth. Okay, let's return to the questions. Okay, the Nagas. I was also not clear if you said we are to invoke a deva as a guide, or it's just our own work that we do. I'm not sure of the question. Is Nina there? Do you want to clarify that question? You could unmute yourself to speak. Okay, anyway, I don't say that one invokes. I don't think I said that one invokes. I'm not sure that one invokes the devas. I don't think I said that. And I wouldn't say that. What we do is transfer merit to the devas, because the devas are said to depend upon human beings. Okay, let's move on in the questions. Okay, is falling into the illusion of immortality a misplaced immortality? Self-identity superimposed on the body? Is not Buddhahood a condition of awakened immortality? Yeah, I think I understand the question. Okay, what's meant by the illusion of immortality is thinking that one is going as an individual, one is going to live on forever, that one is going to retain one's identity forever. Buddhahood, one could say, is awakening to the deathless, realization of the deathless. The deathless is Nibbana, but a Buddha or an Arahat as a person doesn't live forever, is not immortal. But the Buddha and the Arhats realize Nibbana, which is the deathless state. And then, in a sense, they become the unconditioned. But in doing so, they lose their individual identity with the passing of the body. They don't remain as the Buddha, Gautama living forever as the Buddha, and the Arhats, Sariputta, Moggallana, living on forever as Sariputta and Moggallana. Okay, question. Can a stream enterer be reborn in the formless realm and become enlightened? Yes. I don't know of passages in the suttas that speak about that, but according to the Abhidhamma system, a human being can become a stream enterer and then develop the immaterial meditative absorptions, then be reborn in the formless realm. And now, when one becomes a stream enterer, one has the world transcending right view. So one doesn't have to listen to the Dhamma anymore from the Buddha, but the stream enterer, reborn in the formless realm, can continue to develop that insight, can develop the world transcending right view, and then achieve arahatship in the formless realm without ever coming back to the human realm. From the formless realm, the stream enterer can pass into final liberation as an arhat. Okay, how to increase one's sense of urgency in this the modern sensual world. It's hard to do so in these comfortable surroundings. Yeah, probably the most effective way to develop that sense of urgency is to do the recollection of death. Maybe next week in our meditation, before we do go into the sutta, we'll do the meditation on death so that we can increase everybody's sense of urgency. Okay, somebody asks, how do arhats experience this fear? The arhats don't experience the fear anymore. The arhats have developed that sense of that fear that's been their motive for entering the practice, the full-fledged practice of the Dhamma. But with the achievement of arhatship, they are free from fear. Okay, next question. Are the formless states considered to be desirable? I think I already answered this, so we would say that from a worldly point of view, they're considered very desirable because they're very peaceful, very tranquil. The lifespan in the formless realms lasts for many, many aeons. But from a, let's say, from a Dharma point of view, you could say they're undesirable unless one has achieved stream entry, because they're so peaceful and tranquil. If one attains them, one might lose the motivation to develop insight. And once one is reborn in the formless realms of existence, then for many aeons, one has no motivation for cultivating the Dharma, the liberative Dharma. One just remains in that peaceful equanimity for aeons. Okay, can a non-returner, an anagami, fall back to the level of stream enterer or once returner? According to the Theravada tradition, no. Some other scholastic traditions said that even an arhat could lose their arhatship and fall back. But according to the Theravada tradition, once one reaches any level of realization, one can fall down to lower levels. Okay, you mentioned wrong insight. I don't think I use the expression wrong insight. What I said is a wrong understanding. And the wrong understanding is the understanding of the five aggregates as being myself, as being I and mine. And the opposite of that is correct insight. I think I said correct insight, but that doesn't imply that there's a wrong insight. The correct insight is the insight into the five aggregates as being not my, not mine, not I, not myself. Okay, when you mentioned wholesome fear, do you mean otapa or adinava? So these are Pali words. Otapa is fear of wrongdoing, and otapa as fear of wrongdoing is a wholesome kind of fear, but that's not what I was intending when I spoke about wholesome fear. Rather, what I spoke of wholesome fear is that sense of urgency that arises when one realizes that I am subject to old age, sickness, and death. I'm subject to the fall into lower realms of existence. And this motivates one to practice the Dhamma more earnestly, more heedfully, more diligently. So maybe we could say that that is a kind of insight into adinava, the insight into danger. Okay, so now somebody is asking, how do you avoid being reborn in the immaterial world? Okay, so the way that one could get, the only way one can be reborn in the immaterial world is by developing the immaterial or formless jhanas, meditative absorptions. So to avoid being reborn in the immaterial realm, one simply, if one gains the four jhanas, one doesn't go on to try to develop the formless jhanas. But what one can do is to develop the four jhanas, and then based on the four jhanas, develop very strong insight. Develop insight into impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Then if one has that strong insight, that strong right view, then one can try to develop the formless jhanas. Then one will get reborn in the formless realm, but one will have the strong right view. And so one could use that right view to develop the insight further and then to reach attainment in the formless realm. Let's Okay, why does this passage replace suffering with personal existence? Why not just quote the Four Noble Truths? Why the deviation from the original teaching? I wouldn't say this is a deviation from the original teaching, but this is a variation. I don't know. But all I could do is offer a guess. My guess would be maybe these devas, their wisdom was already developed strongly enough so that they knew about that birth is suffering, old age is suffering, death is suffering, but they had to be reminded. I don't know. maybe we could say maybe their wisdom was developed enough already so that they didn't have to be taught that birth is suffering, old age is suffering, death is suffering. But what they had to be reminded of is that they are, even though their lifespan in the deva world is so long, that they are imagining themselves to be immortal, to be eternal. And so when the Buddha speaks about Sakaya, personal existence, the devas realize that they are included in personal existence. And so their life is transient, impermanent, and non-self. That's the only idea that I could come up with.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, how important do you think the four jhanas are to becoming a stream enterer? So my opinion about this is that it's not necessary to develop the four jhanas to become a stream enterer. One can become a stream enterer through the direct development of insight. Of course, if one develops the jhanas, those jhanas will become a very strong basis for insight. But my opinion is that there's a path to insight or path to stream entry just through the development of what's called dry or bare insight. Okay, do arhats live in the pure abodes, not only the non-agamis, but arhats? Okay, people who become arhats in the human realm don't go on to the pure abodes. They attain final nibbana at the with the attainment at the with their passing away from the human realm. But people who become anagamis are reborn in the pure abodes, and in the pure abodes they achieve arhatship. And then as they continue to live on as arhats in the pure abodes until the end of their lifespan. Then when they pass away in the pure abodes, then they attain the final liberation, the nibbana without residue. Okay, regarding rebirth, doesn't it depend on the last mind moment as to which realm one goes to? Actually, that's a rather complex question. It doesn't depend on the last mind moment, but it's said to depend on the last cognitive process which precedes the last mind moment. And what takes place generally in that last cognitive process is determined by the karma one has generated in the course of life. So if somebody develops a jhana or a formless meditation in the course of their life, then in the last cognitive process, that jhana or formless meditation will arise again and determine rebirth into a realm corresponding to the jhana or formless meditation. Okay, are we to do our work or also invoke the protection from a deva? I have someone asking me to do this. I was not aware that devas help us. Okay, just what I say, we don't actually invoke or appeal to the devas to help us. But what is said in some suttas, I won't quote, try to find them now. The Buddha says that when you do deeds of merit, then you dedicate the merit to the devas, inviting the devas to rejoice in one's merits. And then when the devas rejoice in one's merits, that motivates them to give us protection. So we don't have to go out of our way to invoke the devas, to pray to them and say, please, devas, help me. But we do our good deeds and share the merits with the devas. And if the devas rejoice in our merits, then they might be able to help us. But that's not a sure guarantee. You know, we don't know for sure that the devas can help us. Okay, is jhana important to our quest for stream entry? I've already answered that. What is dry or okay, I think we're going to have to end now. Wow, a lot of more questions. But it's 11:30, so I'm going to have to go up for the meal. So we'll have to end now. But let me just mention some of the upcoming activities. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have a Vesak celebration here at Zhuangyan Monastery. Vesak is the day that commemorates the birth, the enlightenment, the passing away of the Buddha. That's in the Theravada tradition. In the Chinese tradition, it's the day that commemorates the birth of the Buddha. So tomorrow, the actual formal Vesak day was the full moon day, and that was April 7th. But
May 7th.
yeah, but we celebrated on the weekend, so that will be tomorrow. And so it will be broadcast online. We have some chanting, meditation, a short Dhamma talk, and the bathing of the Buddha ceremony. So please join us tomorrow. You can find the information about it on the website of BAUS, the Buddhist Association of the United States. And by clicking the link there, you'll be able to participate in the Vesak ceremony online. And then tomorrow evening, there will be group meditation with Bhante Mangala. That is from 7 to 8 p.m. And on Wednesday evening, again from 7 to 8 p.m., there'll be group meditation online with myself. And you'll find the links to all of these activities on the website of BAUS. Okay, let us now do the dedication of the merit, the transference of the merit.